All right, welcome to the Bryce Eddy Show. So today my guest is my illustrious brethren, the one and only Siaka Massaquoi. How are you, sir?
What's up, sir? What is going on? And what happened, man? Did you forget to put up your rights and your left? You got. I thought you were a professional. Like
And
I'm not.
I joined the
What?
Illuminati, but they had to get
yeah.
me twice, man.
So you went up to the you went to the full service level.
Next level
Yeah.
Illuminati. That's
Fair
what it
enough.
is, brother. Yeah, no, I had a little eye surgery. Not that dramatic, but I look like I got eyeshadow. It's getting better every day, but by next week I'll look normal again.
There you go.
Yeah.
I tell you what, you're the only person I know that's had more face surgery stuff than anyone else in my life.
Because I'm vain, and so God's attacking me. God's attacking my face so that I'm no longer vain.
Fair enough. Yeah. All glory.
That's right. Amen. Yeah, it's been a year of just taking care of things, bro.
Yeah. I feel you.
But
at one point you were a Cyclops, now you're a raccoon. So I like
it. That's it, man. That's it. I do my best. Yeah, it's funny, but being a jiu-jitsu guy for years, I would have like abrasions on my face, or like, especially back in like the early days before I, was as good as but you trained hard, you got mashed around a lot, and so I'd have scrapes and bruises and stitches. I remember I came into I just got a job with a new firm. And our first sales meeting, like all hands, everybody's in there. And the night before, man, I got a knee to the eyeball and had 9 stitches underneath my eye.
Whoa.
And my eye was completely swollen shut. It's when I discovered that I had one good eye, because it was, like one eye that I could see really well out of, not so much. And I didn't realize it until I got knocked in that eye and it swole shut.
And you're just blind.
And I'm like, dude, why can't I read? But anyway, yeah. And then that was back before anybody knew what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was. So everybody was like, oh, you got your butt kicked, man. What happened?
Yeah.
You do karate stuff. And I was like, no, I'm a mix between judo and wrestling. And, sometimes you catch an errant knee.
Well, before even the few people that came up and asked questions, I'm just trying to think of that scene of new job. A lot of people seeing you for the first time and they're like,
who is this guy? Was this a loose cannon? What kind of a dude do we hire?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There was that.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's gonna be kind of hilarious, actually. That's what I mean, because it gives you a little bit of aura, bro. Like you walked in there. Think about for a guy standpoint, like, yo, okay, hey, and you're, it's not like you're skinny
jacked back then.
Yeah. I'd be like, hey, bro, where do you train, man? Like, I try to learn.
Yeah, no, 25-year-old Bryce was a monster.
Yeah. Oh man, I love to see pictures. You gotta send me some.
Yeah, I was twice as much. Anyway, well, hey, we've got some good news stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah.
What do you want to start with, brother? Because we got a good list, man. Things are falling apart.
Yeah, this is after the party, and you got to clean up a little bit because you had a huge party at your house. It was a lot of fun. People there, some people you met for the first time, you had a great time with. Now it's the next day or so, and you realize that one person clogged your toilet. Somebody broke some glass, some like glassware.
Yeah, what are these beer cans doing in a closet?
This is crazy. Yeah. I have a big garbage can for a reason, and I think we're there right now, and we're seeing that unfortunately a lot with Charlie Kirk's death and these conspiracy theories. And look, people are like, "Oh, we're just asking questions," and that's all fine and good, but when you're asking questions that, for the most part, only investigators, as they're investigating, would know, and you're just kind of throwing things against the wall, like you're compromising the investigation. And I just, to watch this stuff especially with Candace, she's going hard in the paint. And I'll tell you like this is me honestly. It's like his body wasn't even cold when within the first 24 to 48 hours it was was balls to the wall. It was
an opportunist, and
you're right.
I'm pretty sick of her because she is an irresponsible opportunist.
Right.
Candace is about Candace. She had stabbed in the back pretty much, anybody and everybody that, helped her become
Right.
Candace. And I just thought she was a little bit classless in that. And then she's
Right.
decided to, again, gain as much, traction as she can, using her friendship, with Charlie. And Charlie was, he got to the point, and I'm not going to say too much, but he got to the point of watching her go down a path that was not, helpful,
Hmm.
and he was not keen on it. But Charlie was a gracious guy towards her, was a supportive guy towards her. Almost all of the organizations, except for Daily Wire, who she, you know, let's call it, wasn't so nice to on the way out, or used to catapult to the next little stage. And,
Hmm.
Candace never did a single thing for free for anybody. Candace never, kind of was a team player. And anyway, so here she is now, within moments of Charlie's death, trafficking in irresponsible conspiracy theories. And these
Right.
days, for some reason, every conspiracy theory on the planet leads to the Jews,
I
and that's
know
what she's
that
doing.
that's
Um,
the part. That's the part that gets me. It's like, look, we've been living in an age of conspiracy theories just being exposed. It's called at this point, spoiler alerters, right? And but to everything to lead back to one way, as if we don't see China, as if we don't see what's going
yeah,
on with the Islamic,
literally,
invasion.
in
Like,
their world right now, there's no other bad guy on the
right,
planet. There's no
right,
other evil than the Jews, and that's what
right.
they're doing. And we're watching it. We're watching it be rewarded, unfortunately, by the algorithm and the people
Yeah,
that are into that now. You're watching guys like Ian Carroll, who I considered a friend. Disappointingly, he was. If you watched all of his previous stuff, he was uncovering all kinds of things that were, multifaceted. I mean, he did a thing on the why the ice cream machines at McDonald's were always broken down, and some like legit undercover investigation stuff that he did.
I
I
didn't
mean,
know
not undercover, but deep dive, kind of
that.
investigative journalism that he did on that. It was fascinating, and he was gaining a lot of popularity on some things that were legitimate, some things that were crazy and far fetched, but he was, going down this path, and then all of a sudden it's, no Jews, no news is what they're saying right now, and it's disgusting. It's
Oh, I didn't
disgusting.
know that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like when I watch some of this stuff happen, it gets me to believe that either one or two things. That's kind of been the wolves in sheep's clothing this entire time, or you kind of got caught up with organizations, groups, or of people who maybe butter the bread a little bit. And I don't, that may be financial, that may be opportunity. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
I'm not saying you're getting paid to say it. I'm not going to say that, but
Well, they're
um
getting rewarded. Some of them are
rewarded.
getting paid.
Yeah.
Some of
Yeah.
this stuff, China is behind it.
Right.
I'm gonna get maybe I get Dr. James Lindsay back on to talk about some of that. But we know where
Oh
some of the
yeah.
funding of this is coming from. But a lot of it is that it creates a swell, and that
Right.
swell gets eyeballs, and the algorithm, likes the back and forth and the eyeballs and the engagement and all that stuff. So it goes to the surface, and then they're like, wow, that video hit big time when I
Right.
suggested that. And oh, okay, so I'll just suggest more of that, and
Yeah.
then it becomes self-reinforcing. And then they just, they'll lie about things. I mean, Jake Shields, who, again, another guy that I considered a friend, and spent some time with, and hung out with, and all that stuff, um, is posted the other day, all of the what's the common denominator by all these companies, or something to that effect, and like all Jewish owned. And several of them, if you look at, that they are not. Several of them are completely not Jewish owned. Some of them might have an investor here or there, or somebody, a board member here or there. It's sort of a bizarre thing. I remember them putting a list of like Jewish influencers, and guys that I know personally were on that list who are very much not Jewish. I get routinely called Jewish. I get routinely called, oh, this guy's getting paid by Israel. I've never cashed a check from anyone in the Israel government or Jewish finance
on behalf of Israel.
Yeah, or not at all, man. I want to call authentic balls and strikes on this show, and you do too.
Yep.
But I just happen to not be anti-Semitic, and I believe that we need to be treating all of these issues fairly, and pointing at the evil that exists out there. And hey, you can criticize the government of Israel. You can criticize Jewish people. There's no issue with that. You can criticize anyone, and you can criticize America without being anti-American, and you can criticize Israel without being anti-Semitic or anti-Israel.
And that's something Charlie actually said multiple times on the PVD podcast on multiple different stages about the ability. I remember he had this Gen Z group, and everything I'm saying here, a lot of it I know that has been used as, oh, well, you see, that's the reason why they wanted to take him out. So they'll say, yeah, you can criticize, and if something happens, it goes, oh, well, the criticism was what led to it. So they use that baked in as part of the conspiracy, so that, oh, it's because you even said something about it is why they took you out. Not
and look, there's the text messages that are screenshots from Charlie where he was like, hey, this is annoying. I should be allowed to to criticize whom I want to criticize.
He said out loud. He said
and and he continued to do, and he said, hey, it's a bummer. I'm getting heat from a very tiny slivering, by the way, of his donors. Okay. The Turning Point universe was not funded by Jewish donors. There were some Jewish donors, right? Just like PragerU, that is led by Dennis Prager and Marissa Streit, who are Jewish, right? The many of their donors, who I was very involved and still part of PragerU, many of their donors are Jewish. Many are not. In fact, most of them are not. Most of them are Christians. And there isn't a secret dark cabal, but at the same time, the Jewish people have been used to anti-Semitism over the years and are very on guard and defensive about it, and should be. I mean, I had Rabbi Barkley on the other day. He and I are really good buds, and we've talked deeply about this. I know you know him. He's one of my very close friends, and to be offended by people who are going down this path early and seeing the warning signs of this and going, whoa, hold up, and the Jewish donors that at the Turning Point level that are like, hey, we don't want you to highlight that guy on stage or whatever. I mean, Charlie pushed back and said, hey, appreciate that. We are going to have a debate between Dave Smith and I forget the other guy, and we are going to to address these things head on, which is what we should. That by the way, is how you eliminate this stuff. If we don't, then we have what we have with Candace and all these people that are trafficking in it. See, the Jews don't allow us to talk about these things, so we should be allowed to talk about anything, and we should call the evil wherever it lies.
Well, and it's funny because you mentioned Rabbi Barkley, and it went viral with him and his debate with Candace. And
I talked to one critical of how he handled that a little bit. I told him, he lost his cool, right?
Yes, and it was funny.
And Candace was able to capitalize on losing his cool, and kind of make him look bad for it. I understand why he lost his cool, because it's hard to watch people say stupid things. I mean,
Right.
Candace put out a Moroccan flag and was like, "Look, this is the ancient Jewish flag," and it's like, no, it wasn't. It was a different number of points on that star, and I mean, it was just like
Like silly
foolishness.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, she says
Just
some really dumb stuff, but just like what the left does,
yes.
it's if they say it aggressively,
Yeah.
then
And with authority.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, you ever watch a Destiny?
Oh,
Or
yes. That dude.
Stephen
Oh,
Bonner, aka Destiny, one of the dumbest dudes on the planet.
yeah.
He's Adderall fueled,
If
hyped
it's
up
only
on
Adderall. I mean,
hyped up on all kinds of drugs and stimulants,
yeah.
and all he does, is weird jumping.
I used to see that a lot in Hollywood, and trust me, that's not normal. Usually
Yeah,
after the bathroom trip,
but anyway, he just aggressively advocates for his opinion. Being aggressive does not mean you are correct. Being
Exactly.
aggressive does not work. I mean, again, in the jujitsu world, man, I can guys who are really, really good can, murder you in the slowest fashion possible.
Yeah.
And that's what Charlie did well. You saw
Yeah.
him calm his speed and tone down over the years as he got to be,
Yeah. Yeah. He did. That's good.
more armed
Yeah.
with the truth. But let's see, David Hogg, Dean Withers,
Yeah.
Parker,
Parker.
Get a Job guy.
Yeah.
All of those dudes just go with like fast speed and like,
Yeah.
see, I got you.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, moron.
Yeah. I can't. And after a while, especially because I always like to see like things in stages, and that
Right.
was like 2016 to 2022, right? Where it's like, I did it, I got it, I quick, I have information, look at me drop it on everyone. And then like I felt like from that point on, especially get into election and after, we've hit a stage where it's like you gotta like like that energy is almost too much, and people were so starving for a sense of normalcy, a sense of slowing it down, that they started going like, okay, that's cute and all, but then something like what happened to Charlie kind of gens that energy back up to put it in to kind of put it back into play. And so you see your usual suspects jump on like that and go, well, you see that even Destiny, to your point, was like, not until Trump says something that I don't care. They all say it. It's because they all want it. It's like, dude, you don't even see like it's about your own behavior. That's the difference. And but you got to say it hard and fast because you don't have
speaking lies quickly or advocating aggressively for stupidity does not make you a great debater. And that's what those guys do. Some of the worst liars on the planet now are people who are misquoting and mischaracterizing Charlie, guys like Mehdi Hassan or Mehdi Hassan, however you say it. That dude, I think, is objectively just a liar. I think he says so many stupid things. I don't think he's a stupid guy, which makes
they do it on purpose. That's a lot of the stuff is not.
Yeah, no, there's guys that again just will flat out lie and will continue to misquote, mischaracterize, and say really, really dumb stuff. So
especially if they have coverage with like a company, right? Because you don't really say dumb stuff unless you have that like kind of fund coverage that allows you to keep going into it, and so then they lean in even more, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's crazy.
They're backed as I mean, they're paid house propagandists,
agitators
is what they are. Exactly right.
The one part real quick that like it to see what the effects of this is, and if people would take the time to listen to everything she's saying and compare to, for example, Brandon Tate just did a whole video reading the court filing, the court case on this stuff, right? Of like what the DA has to prove, which ultimately disproves everything Candace has been saying about coming from someplace else. It wasn't this guy, all this stuff. And I saw something recently on this one, influencer's page, and it was something going after Turning Point and Pastor Rob, and the person was like snake, or that snake Pastor Rob, and it's like, we both know him personally. So when I saw that, and I'm like, this is the man that did the prayer, kicked off the prayer service, for his memorial This is a man we know that Charlie was enamored with in his very positive way, and he was a spiritual mentor.
Yeah, I mean,
Our own
he
personal,
was my my pastor. I mean, I still consider him one of
exactly,
my pastors. Yeah,
exactly, and to watch
and
it get to
I love Rob.
what, and me too, and to watch it get to a point where he's right now in Korea trying to help a pastor who is locked up because of his faith, and to watch what Candace has said now spill over to the way where people like a Rob McCoy and Turning Point, which his son is there, Mikey, who literally had Charlie's blood all over his body,
Yeah.
is now like being pointed to as like, for some reason they did it when she was on the outside looking in. And the fact that people and this is why I say it's the woke right, because the woke left makes statements about things they don't really know personally, but what they feel like it could be.
Sure.
And Candace is doing the same thing when she says, I don't know, but I know, and I'm like, no, I know. That I'm sorry for all, like, that shit is, no, we're done. That's the thing we moved away from. We moved away from,
it's
just because
tactics.
Exactly. Just because you said it, or you, like, to your point about Ian Carroll, you've discovered some good stuff. It's like an actor. You did a good job over here, but you got to come and audition again to make sure you can get the job. And that's the same thing here. We can't just give blanket trust patterns to people who say something like, hey, I as JD Vance said, I said to this one lady, I'm like, trust but verify. And don't sit there and jump hard and go all in the paint, because just listening to what the DA has to prove, if all those conspiracies were true, what you're saying, if people don't get this, that the defense can go, you see this, all this, if they have it, if this stuff is true, you're telling me the defense is not going to go, okay, yeah, well, it's Israel because according to Candace Owens and all these other people, and here's our information on it, right? It was actually Turning Point, partner with Israel, that did it. It's not our guy. But what the DA said, what the guy said himself, what his parents said himself, the phone calls that they recover, everything that they recover, the guy's like, yeah, it was him. So it's like people don't want it. And when you go down this path, you're going to then lose the truth for the salacious, story. And that's what makes it the woke right. And it makes it woke.
Yeah. Well,
that's what they've done.
They're using lies and Marxist tactics. They're using many of the same things that were done by the left in order to gain control of the narrative versus just trafficking in actual truths.
Right.
Candace went on and flamed Rob because Rob said, hey, stop. Right.
Yep. That's my friend.
Charlie.
Right?
Yeah. Charlie would have never done this to you had the roles been reversed. Charlie would not be trafficking in stupidity and conspiracies. He would not have used your death or the death of one of your loved ones to pump himself up. He would not be doing this. And he said it beautifully kind and gracious towards her. People can look up the exact quote that he said, but it was incredibly gracious. And it was like, stop this. This is not helpful. Don't do this. Charlie would have respected you in this. We need the investigation. And look, there are cause for us to be concerned about a larger plot, right?
Yes.
And I am okay with us exploring and investigating those things. And the Trump administration is okay. It might turn out that it was, just this guy. It might turn out that it was a broader plot. We do know that he was a part of, the loose network of, trans Antifa kind of players, and he was a part of some of that stuff. We do know that he was, radicalized with left-wing ideology. We do know that he wasn't a MAGA boy.
Yeah.
And how do we know that? Oh, because MAGA does not believe in assassinating our own kind of people.
It's crazy. That's insane. And that's the part that's the other part that gets me. It's like, I have not heard her from day one, outside of dismissing the evidence that has been put out there, go in a deep dive on who this kid is. Go in a deep dive on the trans ideology in this way and where it leads to. Go in a deep dive on the fact that they have done this multiple times at least 2 instances I can think of off the top that were targeting Christians specifically. I find it very interesting that this individual who is claiming Christ and is Catholic and doing this is really silent on the genocide and on the attacks that are directed directly at Christians for
that's what's amazing is where's Candace on any of that?
Nothing.
Where's Dave Smith, who is so concerned about the deaths of children in Gaza? Where is he on the many more children
beheadings
dying in Africa,
right,
who are Christians? Where is he talking about some of the other conflicts of the world? Okay, again,
the algorithm didn't reward him.
No Jews, no news. And so, I do not like inauthentic people. Comic Dave Smith is barely Jewish, but he hangs that like a mantle of protection around him. Having a distant Jewish grandfather is not being Jewish, right?
Right.
By the way, it has to be on your maternal side anyway for you to, claim Jewish heritage. Okay. He is, again, doing this intentionally because he wasn't a great comic. He was not popular. This made him popular. This made him huge. This propelled him into superstardom to where everybody knows who Comic Dave Smith is. And again, he's one of those guys. I'm just asking questions. Why are you? Oh, what? Yeah. I just want no dead babies. Oh, how can you argue with me on that? I don't want dead babies.
Yeah, okay. Blessed are the peacemakers. I just want peace. Yeah. Why are you arguing peace? And you're just using that one little phrase. That's what those charlatans and a lot of those black churches do all the time and call themselves prophets. Like, slow down.
I've got no respect for him because again, he is a charlatan, playing this game, and it's sad to see someone who was as gifted as Candace. Again, she's the only black conservative female voice that really existed, who was able to argue points in favor of the conservative movement, who was part of the Blexit thing. She was
young.
Yeah, she was young and pretty and beautiful, and so it's like having a Hollywood starlet on the conservative side. And so people gave her platforms, and she was very talented, very charismatic. I met her in person a few times, and thought that she was, very charismatic in person. Just, there are people that have that gift, but she's squandering it now, becoming a rank anti-Semite.
Last point that I'll make is, and it blows my mind because somebody else was hitting me up about it. And I'm like, they were like, well, I hope if I get killed, Candace investigates my death. I'm like, dude, you're not big enough. Like it wouldn't do anything for her to pay attention if something happened to you. But the fact that this person said, and I've seen it elsewhere, well, she said, if Erica has a problem, they have a problem, to tell me to stop. And I'm like, okay, so do we remember that Erica is the woman who had her husband assassinated in front of everyone? Yeah. So she needs to be going around and making sure people are doing things the right way in the name of her husband. Like, that's the grace we want to give the woman who has recorded images and different angles of her husband being killed in front of the world. That's what we're doing now, people. Yeah. Oh, Candace said this, so then Erica has to.
Turning Point has horrendous footage of this.
Oh, I know.
From many angles. Yeah. Right. That is appropriately kept out of public view. Right. And has been given to the investigators. And for them to also, take, she was a Trump beauty queen, Miss Arizona. Look at her father, this, look, they arranged. How come you don't see pictures? This is what I heard. How come you don't see pictures of Charlie playing with his kids and pictures of their faces and things like that? Well, because Charlie kept them off camera.
And when you do see him, you see the back of their heads, and it was known that he wanted to make. We've seen it in person.
He would send us pictures of his kids and say, hey, nobody distribute, so board members, tight inner circle. He would send us, the baby announcements, all that sort of stuff. So we got to be a part of his intimate family and world, right? And go to his wedding celebration and go to, and see all of those things. But he was asked, hey, I'm in the public eye. Erica is. Let's keep my kids out of it. And absolutely, that's something that's very, respectable, and people like that.
And Erica, the multiple times that I've met her, and the first time we met was Charlotte was pregnant with Xavier, and she could not have been. She even gave Charlotte her number. Hey, hit me up if you have any questions about anything. It was right over when we were close to that, where you ended up shooting your podcast the next year, that little corner that we were all hanging out in, and at America Fest. And I'm watching this. So again, to watch them people, especially on our side, who the biggest thing was just listen to me. I'm trying to tell you the truth. Just listen to me now. Go, yeah, the widow is some type of, Trump femme fatale that set this thing up or is a part of it in some way. Or, she should say this if it was really a problem. Like, it hadn't even been a week yet before Candace made that statement about if there's a problem, Erica would tell me to stop, or my husband would tell you, hey, how about your discernment? The one, that you share when you take your quiet moment with the Lord, maybe ask him, is this okay? Should I keep going this hard? How about that before Erica, who's probably not talking to you because you guys didn't talk like that, and your husband? That's so lack of accountability in this situation that it's really frustrating to watch, when every morning or at least once a day as a Christian, you're supposed to take time out for the Lord.
Yeah.
Maybe ask him, are you moving the right way in this? Is this the right way to move? And maybe those other people jumping on the watch, if you're a Christian, go, hey, is this somebody showing discernment in this moment now? I need to be aware of what's going on here. It's really frustrating to watch. It's really frustrating to watch.
It is, man. It's, it's sad. It's disgusting. I want to see us all, get responsible with these things and not, do stuff for clicks. It doesn't matter if it's the right or the left doing it. If you're doing it inauthentically, just for clicks, and you're going to be willing to spread lies or half truths or manipulate things or gaslight people for clicks, it's truly evil. The other thing that Candace is claiming, which is not true, is that Charlie was about to become a Catholic.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that they took him out as well. So, all right. What I do appreciate about Charlie in his, kind of investigative learning mind is that, there are people that are, because of the failures in the evangelical mainstream kind of Christian world and a lot of the feminization of that kind of experience and the feminization of Jesus and all that stuff, there are people that are being, drawn to Latin Mass. And of course, Charlie had many Catholic friends and contributors, Jack Posobics of the world, friends
employees,
like Knowles and employees and all that stuff. But it was still an evangelical led organization. But you also had people that were starting to go and convert to Eastern Orthodox. I mean, we have friends that have gone from, the evangelical world into the Orthodox Church. And again, a lot of that, Charlie had a Orthodox pastor on his show and talked openly about, oh, what is this and what are the differences and things like that. It was a beautiful thing. And no, Charlie was not on the verge of going Catholic, and no, this is not part of the big conspiracy as to why they.
I mean, he was very clear about the dogmas of Catholicism that he just couldn't jive with, and I would actually say it's the same for me. While I respect so much about the Catholic Church, and I did a project recently. I was talking to a buddy, and he's Catholic, and I'm like, it seems to me you're focused more on the traditions than what the word says, and he had a spirited positioning on that, and I didn't buy it personally.
Well, and I understand, but I do understand their both the Orthodox and the Catholic world. They both believe that as evangelicals we have ignored, like Paul says, and the traditions that
right.
that were passed down, and we've ignored a lot of those things. The Orthodox Church will say, "Hey, our early church fathers practiced these things and passed these things to us," and we ignored them. And there's some things that I'm open to there.
Right.
There are some things that I
of
think are
course.
true, and I think the evangelical church, had gotten loosey-goosey, and you saw it in a lot of the worship music where you just, like South Park did that thing. Oh, if we just take a song about a girlfriend and turn it into
Jesus.
a song, say Jesus, then
Yeah.
congrats, you wrote a worship song. And man,
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
reason why satire is so good is because it's based in truth.
Yeah. Do you know that Brandon Lake song, Just Like Heaven? Do you know that song at all?
Yeah.
So I mean, I still love it musically, but I used to like love that song as a worship song. And then I heard someone saying, these people coming up with like boyfriend Jesus. And I was like, wait a second. And then I was listening to it and I'm like, uh-oh. And I had to like remove it from my worship kind of playlist. And it hurt me, man. Cause I was like, and then when I really started to think about it, I'm like, if you change it to a girl, it's a rap. Like,
well, a lot
really
of it, well,
crazy.
the thing, and then I've talked about this on the show with worship music. So, a lot of those things are, musically beautiful,
Yeah.
great to listen to in that regard, but they're not worship music.
Yeah. No.
And worship music is reverent and humble, and that's why some of the churches, are very much fixed on doing the hymns and doing more traditional music, because it's easy to fall into those earworm traps where, wow, that's amazing music. Oh, that's it. Now, I've got no problem if you want to, you're running around cleaning your house and doing your chores and listening to all that, listening to worship music. And and by the way, I had a house full of worship music, right, all the time, 24/7, and a lot of it was just background noise, and I did not like that. That was something that was a kind of routine disagreement. I did not like it because I want to keep it more reverent, right? And not just be noise, and not just be something that's, running in the background, because I do think that worship music is time for worship.
Right.
And sometimes hearing those songs too much just makes it noise. But that's personal preference. It's not, that's not a, real moral judgment. That's just personal preference.
Well, and that's the other side. It sounds like too, like the things that the evangelical churches let slip, the Catholic or the Orthodox with their structure. I even said this to a friend of mine said this. She was like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about converting. I like the idea of like going to mass every Sunday," and that to me fits into the Sabbath type of thing that Charlie even mentioned is something that he admired about the Catholics, that they were very consistent about doing that. Admired about the Jews.
Generally, it's the same everywhere you go. There's there's a coherence,
yes,
and a consistency that I think is beautiful, and I'm very drawn to that. And there's a distinctly more in a lot of those, especially Orthodox, is a distinctly more, or Reformed, a distinctly more masculine orientation. Where it's very reverent and it's very serious,
But the thing that gets me, Bryce, is like, and this is my own beta test. Like, I'm not saying this is every single person, but every time I joked even to one of the FBI agents that arrested me off the tarmac who said he was Catholic. I'm like, the one thing that I found out is the Catholics don't read their Bible. And he kind of laughed. He was like, "Hey," I'm like, "Have you read?" He goes, "No." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I had that one, having that discussion down in the last project with my buddy, and I mentioned a verse about the bishop needs to be married and a man of good standing. And one of the Catholic guys who's really pious, really deep into the church fathers, all this, was like, "Wait, where is that?" And I'm like, what do you mean, where is that? Like, I find that they can be so much more versed in the church fathers' writings than the Bible itself. And for me, that is one of that and the Mary stuff, but that's one of the biggest, like, my biggest hurdle to fully even, not saying I was even thinking about converting, but if I was, that would be one of the biggest things, because I get so much when I go to church, and I'm from Rob and now Pastor Robbie, when they get into the word and I can go, whoa, and they know more than me. And like, that's what your pastor is supposed to be, right? The teacher that can guide you in this. And so many Catholics know the routine and ritual, and then the church fathers.
Yeah.
And the Bible is kind of like, to me, it almost kind of seems like the Book of Mormon for Mormon. It's like, oh yeah, no, the Bible is good, but we did the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why
Yeah,
we
and
need all the
it's an
other
easy
stuff?
trap. It's an easy trap that I think they can fall into.
Yeah.
And you can't. I mean, I'm on a kind of a whole new, journey myself. Because I am, look, I was a preacher's kid, right? And I've joked over the years that I've had an allergy to the Bible and some of those sort of things, right? And a lot of it is growing up, immersed in all of that and being, browbeaten by it, can create a unhealthy relationship with it. I'm reading a
That
really good
church
book,
hurt.
called Sacred Attachment. That's helping me to unwind these things and press into some of this stuff anew. And it's helping. It's been good, and I've been enjoying having my eyes open to that, some of that stuff. Reading some of the early church fathers and doing some deep dives there has been helpful for me, because it is apart from that, but
Right.
a part of that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so that's been helpful to kind of the renewing of my mind, as I'm sorting through these things. It's been helpful. So
Well, and I think that's the thing. I think it's a great thing. I really do. I think reading the church fathers, how they were like starting off day 1, 2, 3, all that. I think that's amazing.
yeah.
My thing is, when I seem to have conversations with Catholics, they don't know the word, but they know
Well,
everything
that
else.
and
And
that's a
that's like,
mistake. And by the way, that's where, like, if you were to look at more of the Orthodox tradition, and
mhm.
I think that they are far more solid in all of those things. Very different in their traditions, and services are much closer to the more Catholic style and reverent and all that
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
But
Yep.
they are but it's, I think, a much more healthy adherence to understanding the Bible and knowing
Yeah.
the passages, and
Yeah.
they're deep.
Yeah. I went to
There are otherworldly level of deep in all
our
of that stuff.
our neighbors are Orthodox, and the first 3 months out here, when we're church shopping, we went to their church. Amazing church, a little small thing in the middle of nowhere, but it was amazing church. Met Alexander's his name, Alexander Harris. Check him out on YouTube. This kid was like going so deep into like Jewish tradition, that why Christianity and why we do this as Orthodox. It blew my mind, and it seemed like people knew why we do what we did, and that
Yes.
was really cool to
Yeah, they
experience
understand the
that.
history,
Yeah.
and again, because the traditions, right? That where Paul says that, and that was important to the early church fathers. The idea of sola scriptura was not something that they believed.
Right.
It was, yes, scripture is this, but also you have this, and Paul is very clearly saying that you have both, and there's other places in scripture that it is that idea is supported. It's like, do not forsake those traditions. And
Right.
what evangelicals did was throw everything out,
And just gonna restart the
and it
dome.
reminds me a little bit of, like, you know parenting, when you are young and you just have your first kid, and you're like, I'm not doing it like my parents. I have a whole better way. I'm gonna, and then you throw out all the good, with the things that you considered bad, and you're like, I got this. Why? And then you realize that, oh, maybe some of what they
You,
did was a good idea.
it's funny. That's funny you say that. That reminds me of when we were talking about sleep training with Xavier, right? And I'm like more of the old school, like you put him in a room, let him cry it out. And Char's like, well, no, we don't want to traumatize him, And I'm like, trauma, like we're gonna be traumatized. And so,
Yeah.
and then by the time Olive came, it was like, I'm gonna go lay down. She's like, yep, go ahead, get him out of here. It's like so it changed when you're in the
Well,
fire. All that
yeah,
stuff
and
is
you
like,
also start to understand, I mean, the differences in a baby's cry. You get to, like, you
yep,
hear their
yeah,
language. You know what it
yeah,
is, hey, I want your attention, and
yeah.
I do not want to go to bed, even though I
Or
should, and
or
I'm tired. And so, oh, look, you're rewarding me. If I cry, you're coming back in,
Yeah,
all this sort of stuff,
that's funny.
versus them having to, learn to self-soothe a little bit.
Yeah,
And when they're hungry, when they need to be changed. I mean, you can hear the difference.
right, right, right.
And no, it's not, traumatizing and
The end of the
horrible. They're going to
world.
have wounds and scars.
Yeah.
They're going to have wounds and scars from all kinds
No
of other
matter
things in
what.
life. We're
No
going to
matter what.
traumatize them other places.
Yeah, exactly. I'm holding on to the one. I'm like, the other day I was like getting a little loud in the house, and I went to Xavier. I was like, hey man, I'm sorry about that, bro. I didn't mean to get loud at the time. And he can't verbalize it back, but he leans his head against me, and we gave each other a little hug. And I'm like, at the very least, we can at least come back together and clean it up after the fact, and it was a real beautiful moment. It's so awesome to have kids, because you get to really work on yourself if believe if you're honest about it, and if you can. I'm finding value in then showing them I can be humble about my mistakes now, so that I'm also used to it when they're 15, and they may be right, but they've been a jackass about it. And I still have to go, you're right, as opposed to I'm just going to stand here because he's being a certain way, no. It's really, really cool.
Well, hey, we got off on some great tangents there,
Yeah, I know.
and I appreciate it. But I do
Yeah.
want to hit a couple other quick news stories before we wind this episode down.
Let's do it. There is news going on.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the liberation of Chicago, man.
Oh boy. You've known me a while now. You know that is something that I'm passionate about. I'm from that area. Actually, where they did that raid at an apartment complex, I used to live probably about 4 or 5 blocks away from there back in the day in Logan Square, off of Kedzie. But to see the troops go in there, before I get into troops going in there, but what I want to focus on is the fact that it seems to have been a concerted effort since 2010, at least with Rahm Emanuel, to allow such violence to accelerate in that city. I have a buddy of mine. Yeah, proliferate. I have a buddy of mine who's Chicago PD, and he told me this directly, that he was told to stand down during the riots in 2020. We just saw reports now with the audio recording where they're being told to stand down now. And the amount of death and destruction that has been okayed in that area, it gets me to, and this is just my own, I'm putting on my, conspiracy theory, aluminum jacket and underwear right now. But I look at negligence as part of a plan, right? And you get people to a point so badly that they scream for safety. Is kind of what they did in 9/11. And I'm not saying that Trump's move isn't something that is needed so badly because of how far it's gone. But then I start to think, how do you get the people to give up more of their security? You do something where you allow the worst of the worst you allow them not to do the basic job they're supposed to do, which is just protect their citizenship, right? That's like you do it so dad doesn't have to come in and do everything else. It's like, that's on you guys. Good luck. I mean, king or what is it? Not the judges. That's how it was set up, right? Like, I'm gonna give judges to remind you, but no kings. You guys can do it yourself. And what happened? People they cried for a king, right? And to see what's going on, it's been going on in Chicago. My buddies tell me the West Side is a wide open drug market. You can go down each block on the West Side for a different drug and just go up to somebody and buy it. That's the situation. And that is with the soft on crime policies and the cashless bail that has created that. Then the federal government has to come in. And I'm just afraid that just like 9/11, they got the people who are are patriotic, and they're so kind of do it on their own to then help share in the idea of federal forces going into different cities. And so now the group on the left, who when their guys in, they love big government. Doesn't matter. They got the ones that want small government, see the problem for what it is, and really understand the problem is that. So I get we have to do this, to then be on board for bigger government in a situation that has gotten out of control. So my own thing is this done so that the government continues to grow? Because the government's its own beast, regardless of if Trump is in there or not. It's its own entity that wants to continue to grow. It's like a blob, right? It's as much land and area they can take, it will. And once you have allowed areas to become so bad, partly because they've been robbing people blind with taxes, so to say, we'll tax you more and fix the thing we created. so bad that now we cry for that king. We cry for the federal daddy to come in and clean up. It shouldn't have even gotten to this point. And it to me, the fact that it is there needs to be legal accountability, and people need to be more active in those areas about
no, I've
you know.
I've talked about this a little bit on the show, but I've talked about it a lot, kind of just in private conversations with people. But once you let things go too far, so people right now are like, oh, this is authoritarian fascist tactics and things like that. Okay. If I am, let's say Bryce Eddy is now tasked with cleaning up a city, let's say, downtown Boise got completely under control of gangs and homelessness and drugs and all that stuff, and I get hired as the guy to go clean it up, whether publicly, privately, whatever. But I am now empowered by the government, or let's say it got so bad that I just need to be a local warlord because the people all come and go, dude, fix this. Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go in and knock some heads. Okay. Meaning that, let's say if this is a spectrum, of like, law and kindness to authoritarian, bruising, and you're going to have to be somewhere in here in order to like reset things.
Yeah.
Civilization is a very, very thin veneer.
Right. Yeah.
And once you let it go past
nice.
a certain point, then, there was a phrase, I think it was World War II, where they're like, bring in the sons of bitches. Okay. Meaning that the guys in the military and the tough dudes that were gnarly. Okay. This is a problem for those guys now. The guys that are a little bit hard, a little bit extra salty. Okay, we're not doing quite as much de-escalating.
We're going in there and shutting it down.
We're going to point some guns in some people's faces, and we might point some guns in some innocent people's faces, but a lot of those people that are going to be offended by some of this stuff are the people that let it happen. Okay?
Right, exactly.
And also there's people who are the poor people in those towns that have been terrorized that are like, we got to do something, and they're crying for it. They're crying for increased police presence.
And that's probably the part that gets me the most when I look at Brandon Johnson, Lori Lightfoot before that, Rahm Emanuel before that, Pritzker right now. They are grandstanding literally on the backs of terrorized people. My mom, I remember telling her after 2020, you need to move away from there. She told me just recently, a year ago, she goes, thank you for telling me to do that, because that was a smart move, because that area was a war zone. And you have 70-year-old grandmothers in those neighborhoods. You have children in those neighborhoods, especially they talk about children all the time and gun violence, but for some reason they don't want to be tough on crime itself, because they use that in order to platform their career forward. And it's like, that's disgusting. Like that's an abomination. That's like the furthest, the most impactful word I can think about, because they have literally on the backs of dead people, especially the Black and brown they say they care about. They have built their career up. They have solidified the stronghold of power in places like Chicago, Baltimore, New York City, Los Angeles. And it's a special type of sickness. And one of the biggest solace I get is the fact that vengeance is the Lord's, and that he says, whoever makes a little one stumble, it's better to have a millstone around their neck. And that's just not stumble by hurting a kid directly. That's like these educational curriculums that they've been putting in their sexualized kids. Those people thinking that their hands aren't dirty because they're not the ones actually touching and diddling the kid themselves, but they're opening this world for such indecency to be poured into the young kids' minds when they're already struggling in these neighborhoods and need people to be smarter, more innovative, all that type of stuff to build that neighborhood up. I have peace because I know there are millstones that are set for so many of these school boards,
Yep.
for so many of these
Agreed.
mayors and aldermen that have the charge of not just their citizenship, but the young people of that citizenship and the national treasure, our next generation that will hold up our infrastructure or not. And they are choosing to or not right now. And that's a piece that I have that hopefully some other, people out there can take and understand. Hey, it's just because they're not touching the kid themselves. They've got something coming for them. It said stumble. Anyone to make a young man stumble, a young kid should stumble. So
yeah, no, I agree. And it's interesting because just looking at some of the news stuff right now, Kash Patel comes out and says, hey, Chicago's got a big problem, and that big problem is there's 110,000 active gang members in Chicago.
Yep.
Out of 2.5 million residences or residents. And of course, you've got all of the, liberal types and, all that. Oh, this is horse crap.
Right.
What are you talking about? No, I mean, it has been, again, allowed to get, so sick there and so rotten and so cancerous because they have just not policed a lot of these areas. And it's got to be cleaned out.
So, and to that number, why that number is so high compared to like when it was Bloods and Crips or Vice Lords or whatever back in the 90s, is my buddy from Chicago PD buddy told me this. There's no real leaders. There are a bunch of little 3-4 person gangs. So whereas the organizations as they were back in the 90s was like this guy ran the Bloods, which was this area of the city.
Yeah, this is the blocks.
Yeah. No, it's everyone is a block now. Everyone is their own little incel. So they have an incel full of 3, 4, 5 people doing carjackings, but then the building next door has the same amount of people doing carjackings. So the number of carjackings looks high, but there's no one person there. If you take them down, the organization goes,
which makes it hard for RICO statutes.
And,
some of those kind of things. No, you have to go in there and you have to start knocking heads and killing some of these people in police actions. Which is, again, the left wants the destabilization because then that's how they continue to fleece us of our cash and take more and more of our liberty under the guise of giving us security, right?
And freedom, right? Like it's
right. And they'll prosecute me if I'm there in Chicago and, shoot a dude in the face who's robbing me of my property. They'll well, was your life really in an imminent danger? Because, you were just defending your Lexus,
your stuff, right?
Which, by the way, I am so down for the idea of protecting property, which, I've talked about this a little bit before, but years ago, we had a shift in self-defense laws where you cannot really protect your property. You can only protect your life or the life of someone else, right? And I believe that allowed for the proliferation of property crimes. Now there's abuse that comes with some of those sort of things, right? Because there's people that, would, shoot the kids running across their, cow pasture doing a cow tipping, which is a little bit like, okay, come on now, let's not just shoot people.
Right.
But we do have to have, I believe, the right of defending property. And when you teach people this sort of stuff, you teach them to be like, I was in fear of my life. Well, I don't know. You blasted that guy, 10 times when he was running away with your purse.
But here's the thing, though. It has, and we saw it in California, $950. So it like creates a culture of this is your stuff is just only your stuff until I get it, right?
That's it.
But and correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that in our founding documents, castle doctrine is a thing. Castle doctrine also referred to your property, and I think that a lot of these laws.
I know castle doctrine. I can explain for the audience because it's not quite that. Castle doctrine. Yeah, castle doctrine assumes that if you are defending yourself, defending your castle, which really they at one point, they could extrapolate it to be, property, but as it was conceived and as it's been upheld, it was really like your sovereignty, your person, right? And if you are in a self-defense situation, if here is the line of innocent and here is the line of guilty, you start way over here with like an
Okay.
extra presumption of innocence, which
'Cause it's
means
your
that a prosecutor to say that, oh no, he just wanted to blast that guy, and he really wasn't afraid. They have so many more legal hurdles to get you over to this side than if you were just, is he, innocent or guilty?
right. Oh,
So
interesting.
castle doctrine of which is the kind of predominant reigning law in California. In other places, the stand your ground places, you
Right.
do not have a duty to retreat. Whereas if in California, you have more of a duty to
Do to
retreat.
retreat, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So it's a very
so
interesting
then
thing.
let me ask you this, is then, and because I think a lot of this comes down to the lack of information on how our laws work and what we can do as citizenship to kind of combat certain laws, like in California. Is this a place where like that $950 law where it allows property crime to sue up to the Supreme Court so they can't okay robbery as part of, as a law? Like, you can't say it's okay to steal, period. Like, I think that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like if we take this stuff to the Supreme Court, where if you're in a liberal state, they're going to side with the liberal laws because they're like, oh, well, this is what we do. But if you take this law that goes, look, they're not defending my property, or allowing me to, which is part of their oath to the Constitution when they're elected officials, can we get this thing overturned? And I think somebody should be lined up in each of these, but just like the overturning Roe v. Wade, if they didn't go and sue in Mississippi,
that would be interesting.
Away.
I should have Andrew Bronca on again. Andrew Bronca wrote a book on the law of self-defense, and he's kind of a national he's a lawyer that specializes in that for cases in pretty much any state, so he kind of guides them. He doesn't defend in all of the states because he's not licensed as a lawyer in all the states, but that is his expertise. So he's like an expert witness for everyone, an expert counsel to guide lawyers in those self-defense cases. And he's been kind of one of the guys behind almost every single one of those, and behind a lot of very successful defenses and successful wins. Because what's happened now is our government, and this is my whole original point, if I shot a guy who was trying to carjack me in Chicago, you would be arrested. If you defend your life in a Chicago or a Los Angeles or anything, they arrest you and they go to prosecute you. And you need to
New York, Daniel Penny.
Yeah. You need to very much defend vigorously, and you will lose, right? Oftentimes, you might win the case, but you've bankrupted yourself doing it. It's
have him on. I'd love to hear that conversation, because I think that's something we could help to organize. Is like, look, we got to start as conservatives, as Republicans, we got to start getting together these lawyers to start filing cases against laws in states that are clearly violations of our civil rights, of the Constitution. I mean, there's no way where, you remember that story with a guy, he had a cement wall in his for his property, and he's sitting there with coffee in his hand trying to get in the front door, and these two guys come over and start to rob him. Luckily, he had a gun on him, turns around, his wife and 2-month-old is on the other side of that door. He shoots at them, doesn't kill them, and the city of Los Angeles takes his gun away. And it's like, wait, he would have been killed. At the video shows if you take that away, and they put it on him, like they were going to they ended up reversing this conceal and carry, but they had suspended it initially because of that. And there's got to be something that goes all the way up to go, these people can't do, like, you can't, the guy had a brick wall.
we have moved everything in favor of the criminal and against the citizen in this country. And again, that's liberal policy, liberal mentality. The criminals are the victims, because they're the victims of their circumstances. And those poor, sad people, look at what, you've driven them to. There is not a recognition of, evil versus good at all. And so, here we've got, this kind of thing just proliferating, and we're terrorized. Well, Donald Trump and others, like cleaning up DC, cleaning up Chicago, putting federal troops in Portland because of the paid agitators that are paid to protest against ICE.
Can I speak on that real quick?
Yeah.
So I have a buddy of mine that works in administration. He was telling me how when he was there in Chicago, he goes, what they do is that if they have an incident against ICE, they scream out their name. They scream out their name and their date of birth so that they know where to send the money. 500 for dust up, 1,000 if you get arrested. This is a guy who was on the ground listening to this. So this is not like just
this is,
conspiracies. Like, wow, this is
this is known. I mean, we watched them handing out from backpacks bags of cash too back in the 2020 riot.
Wow.
And them directing people of where to go and what they want, I mean, and the pallets of bricks being delivered. I mean, all that stuff was true, because again, it was all about the destabilizing so that they could have a massive wealth transfer, knock out small businesses. I mean, you're looking at right now, big businesses. I'm watching a thing on, big food distributors. And basically, all the consolidation means that in almost every one of these like mid-level restaurants that you're going to, it's all the same food everywhere.
Right.
It's all being distributed in. Things aren't fresh anymore. Things aren't coming from local places. Some of this food is being distributed from foreign countries into the U.S. We're poisoning ourselves, we're destroying ourselves, but more than that, we're creating a bland unhealthy choices as kind of a universal thing. We are being robbed of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in our country in favor of big conglomerate corporations. I mean, that's the funny thing about the left versus right divide.
Yeah,
it's so fake, because the truth is, and I've had a guy on my show yesterday that will be airing soon, who I'm really enjoying, but he has a podcast called the Give and Take podcast. His name is Scott Jones. I went on his show a week or two ago, and we posted it on my channel, and he's a liberal guy, and I'm having a great conversation with him because he considers himself left. I keep trying to tell him, no, I think you're just liberal. But and he considers himself more of a left-leaning Christian, and I really like him, and he got a lot of good feedback from the show that we did together, because we're talking through some of these things, and the truth is, if you're a conservative, you do not want big companies dominating our universe and telling you what to do. You don't want a king telling you what to do. You don't want a president really telling you what to do. You don't want authorities over you. And at the same time, the liberals are kind of saying a lot of the same thing. The liberals, not the left. The left wants all of us to be ruled. And in some respects, the new woke right wants all of us to be ruled.
Right.
I don't want a right-wing master. I don't want a left-wing master. I want to have liberty. I want family and individual sovereignty and local communities to reign supreme. I want small businesses to thrive. I do not want 3 or 4 companies in every industry that collaborate together to rule over us.
Right. And that's and to the point of the food, there's multiple reports about Bill Gates and his hands in these big box stores. And if you, to your point, if you break it down to only a handful, then you have to eat what they give you. And this is their maniacal way of moving us into a socialist kind of society where everything's gray and bland, so that there is no creativity. You just you wake up, you go to work, and then you die, but you don't own anything, and you're still happy because you can get your Netflix and your Disney Plus and everything on your phone. So it's like we got to understand, like, this is not, and this is this part that I have trouble with a lot of traditional liberals, because I personally feel liberalism as has become, there is a lack of accountability. And so with that lack of accountability, the crazies on your side can be crazy, and you can't say anything about it because that's your side, and you're losing what you really, what being a liberal really is to the furthest extreme of it. Now you can't, you're kind of blurred in it too. You're like, well, I got to be okay with trans, even though I think cutting kids up are wrong, which I know multiple people, liberals, who are like that. And it's like, man, but you don't have enough guts to go, no, this is not right. We got to stop.
Because they will
Ostracize
blast you. They will
Yep.
ostracize you. They will cut you out. They will, because again, it's a religious cult,
Right.
And we experience some of that on our side too,
As we talked about in the beginning, right?
Yeah. If you aren't, with a certain narrative, if you don't say a certain thing, then, you'll get blasted. I mean, James Lindsay is a
He's taking some heat.
perfect, perfect example of that. Dr. James Lindsay, who's a good friend of ours, who I absolutely love, who is a more classic liberal, not a conservative, not does not claim to be a Christian, more of an agnostic, but he used to claim to be an atheist. But he's he's
almost there, basically. He's almost there.
I mean, he's a good dude, right?
Yeah,
and I like him. I appreciate him. I love him like a brother. And he has been booted off of a bunch of stages because he's calling out the right wing for the woke right narrative,
Right.
and the things that they're doing, where they're trying to again establish their own
hegemony,
Christo-fascist
right.
rules and laws, and and by the way, that's not Christian.
You know what it seems
of
like?
us.
It seems like, and again, I haven't done so much research on this, but like just the kind of surface level that I know about it, seems like Arianism. It seems like when that first iteration of Arianism came around, and you had your traditional Catholics having to fight that off, really, where it was like, so it kind of has a similar flavoring of that going on. I don't mean Arianism is like white.
Okay. We are always in a battle against people who want to centralize control, accumulate power, and centralize control. It comes from the left. It comes from the right. You can call it whatever iteration of fascism, authoritarianism, dictatorship, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You can call it. People want to make it a pure left versus right thing. Oh, well, if it's this kind, it's a right wing. If it's this kind, it's a left wing. No, it's people will do whatever it takes to centralize authority, control, and power. If you want to be a human being that is in line with what God's vision for us is, you want liberty, right? We want a liberty, not a control of others. Okay. And now there's guardrails. There's a certain amount of government that you need to have. There's community that needs to police itself. There are authorities that exist within liberty, but what you want is maximum, citizen, smallest form of government you can possibly get away with.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes a lot. That makes a lot of sense right there. That makes a lot of sense.
We were all over the place on this episode.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. You actually have like 3 different episodes in this one, right?
Yeah. Well, hopefully people find it interesting. Well, hey, brother, I think we probably should start to wind this down so we can get on with our days. How can we follow you, sir?
Yes. Please follow me on X at Siaka_Mascoa, at Instagram on _Siaka Mascoa. And I got some cool stuff coming up. I don't want to blow it here, but look forward. We got some possibly new shows, books, all that good stuff's coming up. And remember to keep God first.
God bless you, brother. Well, to God be the glory, and we are out. Hey, thank you for watching or listening to this show. If you are someone who listens to us on the podcast apps, please go to our Rumble channel. Even if you're not going to watch us there, we'd appreciate you hitting subscribe. We want to boost those numbers up and make sure that channel continues to grow. But again, thank you so much for listening to us.